This is Identity at the Center. If it has anything to do with IAM, this is the go-to podcast. So if you're a beginner or an expert or anyone in between, you've found your new home. Welcome to Identity at the Center. Now your hosts, Jim McDonald and Jeff Stedman.
Welcome to the Identity at the Center podcast. I'm Jeff, and that's Jim. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
Not so bad. Yourself?
Good, man. Conference season starts in 3, 2, 1.
Might be underway by the time people hear this.
Yeah, well, it should be. I'm flying out on Saturday to enjoy a little bit of extra time in Texas. Gonna go to a country line dancing place. Ugh. What do you think of that?
Gross.
You want to go with us?
That's a big. I unfortunately will not be there. I will be flying in on Sunday to.
You won't
Texas
be able to make it
for the Gartner US IAM Summit in the U.S. So I'll be there Sunday night specifically. So I'm sorry, I will not be able to make your gross line dancing thing.
I actually have never done line dancing. Like I could never do the Macarena or any of those things. But I do like watching people do it. Some people are like real serious and they get it down. Other people are just goofing off and having fun. I think I'd have to try and play it off as a goof off because if I got serious, I would look like a total goober.
Yeah, I would look like a fool too, but I have zero interest. I'll watch it. It's entertaining. That's fine. But yeah, I have no interest in participating. I'm a sit down at the table person at the party or the wedding or whatever it may be. You know, chill, relax, that kind of thing, rather than try to get up and figure out how to make these old bones move in a way that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, we've been traveling a lot. You've been traveling a lot more than me. I think the conference is going to be my last business trip for a few weeks. So I'm kind of like burning the candle at both ends, but it's kind of like this is going to be the end of the travel for a couple of weeks. Doesn't mean I won't be working, but actually I am taking a week off in the beginning of April. And so we've pre-recorded some podcasts. We've recorded one earlier. Mm-hmm. So we're all queued up. Don't worry, folks. We'll have an episode every Monday.
The hits keep on coming.
I think the big question, you're going to bring all the recording equipment with us to Texas, but I mean, I don't know that we don't have a recording space. I don't know that we'll have time to do much in the way of recording, but maybe we'll treat our listeners. We'll see.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe something at our event. I don't know. I'm looking at the stuff. I have the gear sitting next to me here. I ordered some new gear as well. I was hoping to bring that with me, but the tripods that I ordered apparently did not arrive in time and probably will not until next week. So now I got to figure out if I'm going to bring the new gear or the old gear or some mishmash of the two. I got new microphones that I think would be super cool for recording in person rather than the ones we've been using, which still sound good. But
what did they look like?
They're a shotgun microphone. It's just a Rode video mic 2, something like that. It's designed to go on top of a camera, but they're nice and short, portable shotgun microphones that are really good at noise rejection from anything except right in front of it. So good for like a noisy conference area.
That's perfect.
What I was thinking. Yes, but they require some sort of mount. You don't just hold it in your hand or anything like that. So my tripods did not arrive when in the package that I'm looking at right here. So I got to figure out an alternative for that.
So what's your plan for your existing gear? Are you going to sell it or just put it in the closet and wait till it's like worthless?
No, I'll probably still bring them with me. They're 2 wireless microphones and transmitters and stuff like that. So they're good for. That's what we've been using whenever we go on site. So they're nice and portable. They work really well. They catch a little more background noise than I would like them to, but that's sort of the ambiance of a conference anyway. So who cares? But now we're getting super technical into like what equipment do we use, stuff like that. I feel like this is like a YouTube channel, a video or something like that. But no, they're still good. I'll still use them and figure out other ways to take advantage of that stuff.
I always thought that they're a little weird. So
they are because they're not designed for like it's not like a microphone that sits in front of you like you would expect to see like a radio or something like that. It's a wireless lapel mic that you clip to yourself, and it has the little what they call a dead cat on it. That's what they call it.
It looks like
It
a
blocks,
dead cat.
yeah, it blocks the wind and noise and stuff like that, and kind of breezes and stuff like that. So it's designed for that, but they do work really well for casual podcasting and things like that. And I, kind of put together a little system that makes it look like a handheld mic, so that people don't have to clip it to them, and works that way.
Yeah, I think what people don't realize is like unless they've been on the show, is like behind the scenes, you kind of, you have to hold the mic like this, and you always give them like the physical demonstration, and then they mimic it, and it's
And then as soon as you hit
kind
record, they forget about it.
and they forget, and they move their head all around, and but
it works.
It works. It
Yeah.
works.
I don't know.
So
I think this is going to be I don't know when we're going to record, to be honest with you, because we're so kicked down the fourth wall here. It's Friday evening. We're recording this. This is going to go live Monday, right when the conference starts. And then you and I are going to be busy Monday doing stuff. We're going to be busy Tuesday doing stuff. You leave on Wednesday, and then I leave on Thursday. So I'm not sure when actually we would have time to do any recording other than potentially Tuesday night.
I will say that, so we've got a question coming up from a listener, and it made me think, when we first started doing this podcast, there weren't many like, hey, it's Friday at 6:30, let's record the podcast. But we've done this a few times now because there's no time during the week to get the episodes in. But, we're dedicated.
Well, you mentioned the travel. I mean, Gartner will be the 6th consecutive week that I've been on the road for something. I just got back from a trip where I was gone 2 weeks. I came back today, recorded 2 episodes. I will reload my suitcase, pack my gear, and head out again on Sunday. And then I think I have at least a week off where I'm not going anywhere. I hope, at least at this point. I need some time to recharge batteries and things like that.
Recharge batteries and see the bears on your security camera and all that.
We had our first bear sighting of the season. So they are back. The hibernation is over in western North Carolina.
Yeah, I forget who said it, but so you and I were traveling together this week, and you were talking about the bears, and someone said, do they live on your property? And you're like, oh, no, I think they're, but I wasn't convinced. They might live on your property, Jeff.
They might, yeah, they could. I mean, it's pretty wooded. It's 5 acres, so I'm sure there's a lot of nooks and crannies that they can probably dive into. I have not gone exploring into it, so it's very possible that one or more bears conveyed with the property when I bought it.
I think we should do is get one of those old-fashioned honey pots and like leave it out in the backyard and see if it's like Winnie the Pooh, like he's gonna
next
sit
to a
there
picnic
and,
basket,
something like that. Yeah, or put a picnic basket out.
Well, I'll tell you what draws them is bird feeders. So when bird feeders are out, they definitely will come out for that, as we have learned the difficult way last year. So I'm not sure how we're going to tackle that this year.
So it's beginning of conference season, and one of the other conferences we love to frequent is the FIDO Authenticate Conference. The 2023 call for speakers is now open through the end of the month. So this episode will drop on the 20th. That deadline
March 20th.
is March 31st.
Yep.
So, one thing I found, just like kind of a hint for anybody, is like one way to get your company to pay for a conference is be a speaker. And, just knowing that, I actually find one of the most interesting angles of a conference is when you get the real world stories of people who have, implemented it. Obviously, it's great to hear about the technology and all the buzz, but I remember there was one group of presentations in particular was like Target, Salesforce, and Citi all talking about how they roll out passwordless. And I was like, whoa, this really seems real now. So, the whole passwordless angle, rolling that out for your customers or rolling that out for the enterprise. So if you've done that and you have any interest in getting on stage and talking about it, people eat it up. I eat it up. So anyway, that's the deadline.
Yeah, and I'll have a link in our show notes for people to check it out. The call for speakers for Authenticate 2023, which will be in California, I believe, this year instead of Seattle, like the last couple of years. So another carrot there is if you're a speaker and you can, that helps maybe get you out there, and then you're going to a nice place from a weather perspective. So,
So here's
come
a
on.
question for you, Jeff. Best Mexican food in the United States. San Diego. I'll give you some options. San Diego, Texas, which is more like Tex-Mex, or dealer's choice. You got some other answer?
Well, I mean, Taco Bell's everywhere, right?
Oh man, I had Taco Bell last night and it was horrible.
I still enjoy a Taco Bell every once in a while. I'll tell you, I'm not a professional on that side of things, but I do enjoy a place called Uncle Julio's in the Chicago area. So I'm not sure if I think it's probably more Tex-Mex or not Tex-Mex, more of California style, but that's my go-to place. I was just there last week, and my first night in after having flown in, I went to Uncle Julio with my brother, and we had a nice little taco dinner there. I missed it not having that here in North Carolina.
I can't even believe you told that Taco Bell joke.
Hey, there's a lot of Taco Bell fans out there.
No, I mean, like, a good Taco Bell is a good Taco Bell. Mm-hmm. But I decided on my way home from the airport, obviously at 10:30 at night, there's not much open. I decided to go to Taco Bell. Sat in line for about a half an hour. This is after basically working all day and then traveling all night. I get up to the window, get my food, get my beverage, my Pepsi, and he hands it to me and it's warm. I could feel it. I was like, feels warm. Is there ice in here? We're out of ice. I was not happy. I was not happy at all. Yeah, and then the food was horrible, man. It was like, I got a Crunch Wrap and it was like 90% sour cream. I like sour cream and all, but I didn't want like a big tortilla full of sour cream.
Well, that's what you get for going, I guess, late at night. Not saying Taco Bell is the premier choice, but that's just
so
it is what it is.
The correct answer is San Diego.
Well, I'm gonna say Uncle Julio's Chicago area, so take that.
There you go. Hey, we got a question from one of our listeners, Quade Anderson, and he asked, one of the questions I have is how has identity changed since episode 1? This is episode 204. So almost 4 years ago. Are there things you were recommending then that now you are saying we've come a long way?
It's a good question. Nothing comes to mind, but I'll be honest, I have not listened to episode 1 in a very long time. So I'm not even sure what might have come out of that. I think, the adages of, I think we were talking about strategy and who has access to what and sort of things like that. If you can make it out with the really crappy microphones and basement echo room that I was broadcasting from. But I don't think so. Not fundamentally anyway. I think technology has changed, and we've seen things like SMS, MFA become, less of a focus given the security challenges around it. It's still better than nothing, but I think that now the push is moved to stronger versions of multi-factor authentication, or in the case of passwordless, things like that. So I think technology has marched on, and as more capabilities have kind of come through, I think it's just matured maybe some of the recommendations. So we say, yeah, you should be using MFA. 5 years ago, it would have been, SMS. That's sort of like the gold standard because of X. And now we've seen, okay, technology has caught up with that as well as the attackers. And, the benefits of that are still good, but maybe they're less so just because of security implications around SMS.
Yeah. And I can't say that, I'm going to trace this back to exactly episode 1, but there are a few technologies, and you hit it with SMS. That's one that comes to mind where my thinking, 4 or 5 years ago was, well, it's a heck of a lot better than nothing. And I still think that, but I also think it's slightly better than nothing. It's, it's clearly not, if you're starting out now, why would you start out now with SMS? Yeah, skip that sucker. Move on to something better. If you have SMS in place, you should be thinking about replacing it. So, and Speaking of which, one technology that I used to talk to clients a lot, I felt like I was talking to clients a lot about, but it's probably more than 5 years ago, was virtual directories.
Mm.
My opinion on virtual directory is like it kind of covers up the problem. The problem is your data is all over the place, your data is kind of a mess, and you're just putting this virtual directory in the middle to kind of like obscure the problem and can let the problem continue rather than like force the proper solution. So that's one.
That's interesting.
I
Yeah.
think go ahead.
No, I that is interesting because I feel the same way, but now I'm back on to the not bandwagon. I'm still thinking about if I want to jump on it back on again. Is maybe not necessarily virtual directory, but this idea of like identity fabrics and security meshes and things like that. I get where you're going with trying to, it may cover up less than ideal data scenarios within an organization, but sometimes those data scenarios can't be fixed for any number of reasons, or the lift is too great, and maybe it just does make sense to bite the bullet and create, an identity fabric or a virtual directory or something similar along those lines. I'm not saying that that's the way to solve all the problems, but I feel like you're totally right. It's like, yeah, it was kind of popular way to approach it, and then it kind of went away a little while as there was this focus on, hey, fix the data, right? Stop putting a band-aid over it. And now I think we're starting to see a little bit of a shift back towards things like identity fabrics, meshes, things like that, which to me sound very similar to a meta or a virtual directory when it comes to combining data attributes from different sources.
Yeah. No, I think you're making a great point. I think that, understanding the cycle that we live in, it's I want the functionality now. How can I make the functionality work? Well, I can either do this layer of abstraction and get the functionality I want within some acceptable time period, or I can go back and clean up the problem, deliver no new functionality, but have a better base to build from for the future. And then if I want the functionality, it's going to be, down the road from there.
Or worse,
And,
you can't even
you
fix
know,
the problem. It's not your problem to fix. Someone else has to fix it. So
well,
now you're waiting
yeah,
on them.
the IAM team doesn't always have control to fix it. You're right.
Right.
But I don't think that defeatist perspective, if you will, is the right perspective to take.
Come on now, man. The way some of our previous shows have gone, Downer Jimmy has been now you're saying you want to be on the positive side. You gotta pick a lane, dude.
Hey man, no, I can jump from lane to lane. That's the beauty of the podcast. Is most people don't listen to every single episode. They're like, oh, Jim's changed, and now he's Mr. Positive.
Yeah.
This might be
Some
the
do.
first
And we
episode.
appreciate those folks.
Yeah, for sure. So, one other, undeniable uh, trend has been the shift toward cloud-based IAM solutions. So I think the cloud-based IAM solutions on the access management side 4 years ago were pretty strong, and there were a lot more on-prem deployments still happening. I think now there are very few folks that go out and roll out an on-prem access management solution. Everybody's looking at a cloud-based solution. But I think even in like the IGA space and PAM space and the Keem space, it's like most new vendors are starting in the cloud, and most who are traditionally on-prem are building cloud versions. So, probably 4 years from now, it'll be your only option.
It's funny you bring that up because I was thinking here while we were talking, like, what has changed. I think privileged access management has changed. I think with the shift to the cloud, spaces like Keem, cloud infrastructure entitlement management, and identity threat detection response, and sort of all the stuff that's happening in the cloud, a lot of that on-prem privileged access management may be starting to go away. I don't think it's gone. I think there's still a very significant number, but as we shift more and more to SaaS-based and as a service-based infrastructures or platforms, do you really need on-premise privileged access management as much as you did 4 or 5 years ago? If all your resources in the cloud that are sensitive, should you be looking at, the newer versions of PAM, which I feel like are Keem and ITDR and, things like that. So that could be another way. Again, maturation of the idea of, yes, you should protect the keys to your castle. How you do it, though, I think has kind of shifted from more of an on-prem problem to a hybrid problem. And at some point, I would think would be predominantly a cloud problem to solve for.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and the thing is that those solutions that are now everywhere and are on the tip of everyone's tongue, it's not like they were invented within the last 4 years or that the problem surfaced within the last 4 years. But something like infrastructure as code might have been 10, 15, 20% of enterprises doing it. Now it's 50, 60%. Everybody's doing automated deployment of their infrastructure.
Yeah. I think another one that I was really hot to trot for was UBA, user behavior analytics, and user and entity behavior analytics, UEBA, right? Whichever version you want to go with. I don't think it took off the way that I thought it would over the last couple of years. I think it's now kind of evolved somewhat into the ITDR space, identity threat detection and response. And maybe that's okay, right? Maybe it's maybe now is a better time to look at that because we are using more cloud-based solutions and there is more prevalence of single sign-on going through access management platforms and things like that. So I'm almost I won't say I'm disappointed, but I thought that we would see more user behavior analytics type things driving more mature identity for enterprises. And I don't know if I've seen that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point because that UEBA space I thought that was here to stay, and I don't see anybody talking about it anymore.
Yeah. So remember when I said nothing had changed? I guess I just came up with we just give like 4 or 5 things.
Well, think about all the things that are coming next. Things like self-sovereign identity. I mean, to me, that's not the here and now. I don't feel like I'm using my phone and the wallet function of my phone to authenticate myself anywhere. But I hear a lot of talk about it. Passwordless, I'm starting to see. 4 years ago, I don't think we were talking about passwordless. I think now we're talking about it's like, why would you roll out some new functionality for a self-service password reset? Well, maybe it's just part of your Microsoft, so you have it for resetting your Azure password, which maybe is the main password that you're using for most of your enterprise applications. But for the most part, we're thinking, okay, well, how do you get to true passwordless? So
I think it's shifted from didn't exist to if it comes, and now I think we're in the when it comes phase. Like it's coming. How quickly will we get there? I think is the stage that we're in right now.
Yeah, the self-sovereign identity, I think it's still in that phase.
Sorry.
Yeah, for passwordless. I think for the self-sovereign identity, it's still, is it going to come? I feel
think
like
it will.
There's got to be some kind of digital replacement for physical ID cards.
I think it'll be driven by government, education, health, or finance. One of those sectors, and maybe all 4, are going to band together and kind of figure out this thing and come up with a solution that makes sense that most people will look to adopt. Driver's license is a great one. I'd love to have my driver's license digital. I think you guys have it in Georgia, right? Isn't that an option?
I don't have it, but then again, I like to keep my notes on paper.
This is true, right?
Like people are like, well, can you put that on Teams? So I take a picture and I upload the picture to Teams.
Yep.
So one of the other things that we wanted to mention is a company named Ort had a state of identity report that they published on the internet. Everybody can go out and find it. We'll put a link in the show notes. But Jeff, what's an Ort?
It is a cosmic or astronomical thing. I'm not the expert on it, but it's basically the area past Neptune, past the heliosphere, and like this area in between other galaxies and things like that is the best way that I can think about it. But I'm sure I'll get roasted on Twitter, LinkedIn, or something. Someone telling me, the correct one. I
You're so
literally just
stupid,
watched a video on
man.
it. Yeah, that's right. I'm like, okay, I get where it is now from a picture, and that's kind of my explanation.
Yeah, and maybe we'll pull in somebody from Word at some point. They can explain it to us better. Like
That far
I
out,
remember
we got listeners that far out. That'd be great.
I remember when I learned what an octa was. So octa is basically a measurement or a way to represent cloud cover. So I think
Yeah.
it's an octet. So that would be like 8 different wedges of a circle, or I'm not explaining it well, but from a cloud cover perspective, you could be 0% clouds to 100% clouds. That would be an 8. 0 would be a 0, and then it's 1/8 in 1/8 increments. Anyway, I thought that was really cool because I didn't even know about that measurement, and I learned about it and octa at the same time.
That's a
Cool.
pretty cool name. Right now, I'm at 8 out of 8. We have 100% cloud cover right now. For those wondering.
Yeah, same here. So the state of identity report was pretty cool. I mean, so looking at it right on the fly, it's number one, enterprises lack strong MFA adoption. I don't know. I mean, a lot of the enterprises that I'm working with actually have a lot of MFA adoption, at least getting through the front door. So we might be talking about here kind of the breadth of the MFA adoption, or maybe the key is the word strong. So maybe
I think that's the key. I think it's the strong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the weaker MFA doesn't count as much. I think the best is to use an authenticator app. I think that the authenticator app with the number matching, so kind of that extra step of you actually have to go into the app and type the number that's showing up. That prevents that MFA fatigue attack where you just keep pounding the person until they say, yes, I approve. Stop sending something to my phone.
I don't think it does. I think it's the same thing. You're basically getting a prompt on your phone that says, here's 3 numbers. Which one is the right one? And
Do you think
I
people
don't
would
think
actually pick one of those numbers?
eventually, if they're typing in a code, they're going to pick a number because it's even easier. You don't have to type anything. You just touch it and you've authorized it.
No, but I think like the push authentications would just say yes or no by default.
They
So
do
if
by
it says
default, but number matching adds a number to the screen. So it's not just yes or no. It's in addition to yes or no. The yes or no is implied. It is which is the right number. I've got 3 numbers, 17, 46, 38, and my browser shows the right one. And
right,
my phone, I have to pick the right
so
one.
the attacker has the browser,
Mhm.
the legitimate user has the number,
They have 3 numbers in front of them.
3 numbers.
They might pick the right one by mistake.
It's possible. It's possible,
Yeah.
especially since there's only 3.
Mhm.
And
It's better than the
man,
other version.
if somebody does that, bad user.
I smell security awareness training for that individual come Monday morning or whatever that looks
Yes,
like.
exactly. Well, if the company's not sunk by then.
Right.
Okay, so second one was dormant accounts in the crosshairs. The idea that attackers are taking advantage of dormant accounts as their method for getting in. There's definitely dormant accounts. I think that one of the things I see with clients is they do a pretty good job of getting Active Directory accounts enabled, disabled, but do less of a good job in terms of disabling accounts in applications. Now, usually the defense in depth or the compensating control is that you can't get in without authenticating to Active Directory. So I'm kind of split on this one. I think it's important, but I don't know that it would be a major attack vector. What do you think?
I mean, it's a potential open door, and if you're enumerating a target that you're trying to breach, the number of open doors, the number of potential open doors is in your favor. That's what you want. To me, like this, this thing of okay, yeah, dormant accounts are in the crosshairs. That, for my mind, is a very no S Sherlock type scenario. It's like, yes, of course, people are trying to get those accounts. Should they be cleaning up? Yes. Do they do a good job of it? Varies. I think a lot of organizations rely on, well, if they can't get in the front door, that's our control. Well, what happens if they're already in the front door and you didn't clean up the account in SAP or Workday or any of these other, highly privileged systems, right? They have a lot of data in them. Well, guess what? Didn't matter, did it, that you shut down the Active Directory account? They got in some other way, and then they laterally moved up and over until they got to what they wanted.
Great point. Okay, so the third and final was admins and executives under attack. So I guess spear phishing, targeted attacks against domain administrators. I would look, most organizations run a pretty tight ship in terms of like making sure that domain admins is a limited group, using accounts that are not the everyday use accounts is still a best practice, because I think getting phished with your admin account would be horrible. It would just be bad. So I think this is pretty good information. What do you think?
I think it's good information. I don't think it's new information, personally. Of course, they're targeting administrators who have the access that they need, and they're targeting the executives. That's not news. I think, I'm interested to get into a little bit further. Maybe we can get somebody on from ORT to kind of take us through it, because I think it comes down to the details, right? What specifically are we looking at? What is the specific threat? How is it happening? What are things that we as people in the identity space can take back to our organizations to better protect ourselves or to drive awareness towards? I think that's where I would like to see it take it. So if you're listening from ORT, reach out to us on LinkedIn. We'd love someone to come on the show and kind of step us through the report and kind of talk about it into more detail.
Yeah. The only thing I'm going to say is, like, as a defense of this, is that you keep seeing presentations where, like, what's the top form of attack? It's phishing, social engineering. If you, to Quade's excellent question earlier, what's changed? It's not that. That's been the same answer for the last 10, 15 years. Social engineering and phishing. So some things, it's like they might be no S Sherlock, but okay, well, if
doesn't make it any less relevant.
If you're gonna have a creative new answer, damn well better be right. So anyway, I'm going to Gartner next week, man. Are you excited?
Theoretically, we're already here if you're listening to this. Somewhere in the halls of the Gaylord Texan. I've never been there before, so I hear it's massive. But yeah, somewhere we are at Gartner.
Yeah, and I'm going to be wearing my fanciest new clothes.
Oh boy, Jim, you stand out in a crowd. That is for sure.
Yeah, I make sure I do. So, any sessions that are piquing your interest?
Well, there's one that is definitely piquing my interest. The one that we're doing at noon on Tuesday. The Identity at the Center podcast goes inside the belly of the Gartner IAM beast. Basically, we got 30 minutes. We're going to try and do an action-packed, quick-fire show, podcast-style format on stage with Henrique and Becky, and really get into it. The idea is to put them on the spot to answer questions that they don't normally have to answer. And hopefully be a good time. So definitely that one. Shameless promotion, but
Well, can I say something about that? So people who've been listening to this podcast long enough probably through osmosis or maybe explicitly know we don't have any interviews where it's like, gotcha, we're trying to make our guests look stupid. No. In fact, we tell our guests, like, this isn't meet the press. We all want to sound smart. We want to have information that educates people who are listening, but we also want it to be entertaining. It's not a gotcha for Gartner either, but some of these questions are pretty tough questions. And
well, we got some of them we came up with. Some came from listeners. We're going to give credit where we are authorized to do so. Some might be anonymous, listeners or whatever. But yeah, I'm pleased with the way with the content. My fear is, will we get through it? We only have 30 minutes. And sneak peek, we have a shot clock at the bottom of every slide, which has the questions on it to try and keep us moving through the show as quickly as we can. But I'm sure it'll go well. If you're in the area, stop by noon, wherever we happen to be. Come watch us do basically a podcast live.
I'm bringing stickers.
Oh yeah, and Jim has stickers.
Off stickers. So if you want to come up after we're done speaking and grab a sticker, please do.
Yeah. Outside of that, as I mentioned before, things around fabrics and meshes. I think I'm going to try and jump into those and see what is new in those areas, because I'm starting to see some of the value, especially with distributed data sources in some pretty complex organizations looking to solve some of that, especially on the customer or consumer side of IAM. I think there's some value there, and want to bone up a little bit on that. So that's what I'm looking at. And then of course the networking and the event that we got going Tuesday night.
One track that really interests me, which is IAM program management. And there's one session which I love the title, as the expert measuring the business value of identity and access management. I really think this is so important. I think that even if you kind of come from the perspective that we don't need to sell our executives on IAM, they already get the value. Like, well, challenge yourself then. What is the return on investment that you're going to deliver to the business through your IAM initiatives? And then live it. Like, if you get that money and you promise a return, measure yourself. So I'm hoping that a session like that really hits it hard. It's over by Paul Proctor. I don't know Paul, distinguished VP analyst from Gartner, but I'm really interested in diving into that or listening about that topic.
Mm-hmm. Good way to hone your message too.
Great way to hone your message. So the other thing is, if you're listening to this on Monday or Tuesday morning and you run into Jeff or I, we may still have a few seats available for our networking event. It's at Corky's Gaming Bistro. It's going to be a boatload of fun. Just come up to us if we have some openings left. The reason why we're being so judicious with the openings is that they actually do have a cap of how many people they can fit into the place. And I'm just very conservative. I don't want to invite more people than they'll let in and then have people turned away at the door. So we're going to stay under that fire limit of how many people can fit into the place. And we're going to.
There's got to be room to throw axes. How are we supposed to throw axes if the place is jam packed, right?
They will make you sign a waiver, by the way, but hopefully, we don't have to depend on the waiver because we don't want anybody getting injured by the axes.
Don't get hurt. But yeah, if you see us, come up, introduce yourselves. We're happy to chat. But that's gonna be a cool event. It's our first ever Identity at the Center community meetup. It's being sponsored by RSM, Okta, and One Cosmos. So definitely thanks to them. They are the ones footing the bill. I think, as people may or may not be aware, the podcast is literally just the two of us, and we do this on the side outside of our day job. So to get organizations like that to believe in us and trust us and sponsor us for that kind of thing is very cool. So we definitely appreciate those three companies chipping in.
Yeah. The other thing is, we love our listeners, Jeff, but we're not splitting that bill between you and me, man. That's pretty hefty bill. So
yeah, I got a box here of new microphones. Those are not cheap.
Yeah. Well, I got stickers. So anyway, okay. Any predictions for the conference, Jeff?
I don't know yet. I feel like I'll have a better idea after the first day, but I think it's going to be a good conference. I'm very impressed by the sheer quantity of topics that are out there. I'm looking at my conference navigator and the things that I've signed up for, and I have multiple overlapping. I wish there was 4 things taking place at the same time. I wish I could go to all of them. So there's going to be hard choices to make as to which ones I actually stick in and things like that. But I don't know. I think I'll leave the predictions to you because I don't know if I have any good ones right now, other than I think we're going to have a good time.
Yeah. So my one prediction is that I'm going to end up with meeting 5 people during the conference who will be guests on the show within the next 12 months. That's the
That's a
prediction.
good. Oh, okay.
The
Yeah. Okay.
the other prediction is I'll eat 10 desserts over the course
The
of 2
over under is
days.
10 for desserts for Jim in basically 2 nights, right? Because you're leaving on Wednesday, so you're not going to be there Wednesday night.
Right. It's just 2 nights.
I would take the under, folks. Now, if it was me, I'm going to be there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I do enjoy my
And
desserts. So
yeah, I like a good dessert too.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I have any other like Gartner predictions. Hopefully people, come up. We always like to meet listeners and stuff like that. That would be cool to meet folks out there and stuff like
So
that.
one thing I'm going to say, so for people who are going, if you are up for some fun, Becky Archambault, who is one of the analysts from Gartner, she's going to be on the panel with Jeff and I, is a big Buffalo Bills fan, and they got their
Oh
butts
man, come
handed
on.
to
Don't do
them.
this to her.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So just go over and give her a hard time, razz her a little bit, because I didn't realize like we talked about like razzing her on stage about it. Just thought like, okay, well, it's an old wound at this point, and it's probably not that interesting for most people. But if you're an NFL fan, anyway, she takes it very, very, very seriously. And like,
Mm.
even though it's an old wound, it was like pouring salt in it.
Yeah. Well, some inside news, right? That we did have a question that was in our outline of asking Becky to provide a Gartner analysis of the Buffalo Bills' loss in the playoffs. We left it on the cutting room floor for time, so yeah,
But
we
if
were
you
we were,
if
we
you
were going to go
spring it
there.
on her, if
Yeah,
you spring it on
I'm
her,
sure
let
she would
us know.
appreciate that. A bunch of people walking up to her asking her why the Bills underperformed. Let's just say in the playoffs. Be nice. Be respectful. Come on, guys. What else? Anything?
That's it. That's it.
You got any
It's 7
underrated?
p.m.
What's an underrated travel hack or tip for people out there? Something you do that is like this is a Jimmy Mac thing
I don't know if
that you
it's a
just don't see
Jimmy
other people
Mac
doing.
thing. I think it's a thing that a lot of people do, which is you get like some kind of like insulated bottle and like fill it with water. Don't go on the airplane without your own water, because it's like they might hit turbulence and not serve water or whatever or drinks.
Stay
And
hydrated.
what's that?
Stay hydrated. It's basically what
Stay
you're saying.
hydrated. That's, I always like, here's a tip. So I was flying back from Canada like 2 weeks ago, and I had a middle seat on the back of the plane. I'd say one saving grace. First off, the seat didn't recline back. I mean, it was just the worst seat on the airplane. And I bought myself 2 meals. So I just was like, all right, well, I'm going to have a bunch of meals and a bunch of food on this plane. And, I had like some entertainment on my phone, some podcasts and some things to watch. And it actually didn't turn out to be nearly as bad because of those moves right there.
Entertainment and food.
That's it.
Okay.
What are your tips?
Really small stuff like one, don't overpack. I see a lot of people carry a bunch of crap with them that they'll never use. Travel light. Get a bag or a backpack that has a trolley sleeve. That will save your back so much, especially if you're just kind of standing around waiting for planes and things like that. I see a lot of people who are just carrying shoulder bags and stuff like that. I don't know how they do that, but that's a must-have on my bag collection. Get clear, get TSA pre-check, get an airline club. If you travel at all, I mean, all that stuff makes it so much easier. To have a decent travel experience. I won't say great, but little stuff like that can add up to a somewhat decent experience.
Yeah, pre's a must have. I mean, anybody who's traveling a few times a year should get TSA pre.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about clear. It's a lot of money. And
It's somewhere
many
between
times
100
where
and
it's like,
150. You might get a discount through your airline status or through a credit card. When you wish you'll have it, and again, if you do any type of travel, I think it's spend a little money to make travel easier. Makes travel easier.
the Uber tip for traveling is remember in your mind, nobody's really happy about being there. Nobody's enjoying the hot plane or the middle seat or whatever.
Mhm.
Don't make it all about you. Don't get negative and be rude towards other people. And just try to be a good, positive person.
Just be a decent human being. That's it.
Be a
There's a
decent
pro
human
travel
being.
tip. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up there. Looking forward to seeing folks at Gartner. You can find us on the web, identityatthecenter.com. We're on Twitter, IDAC Podcasts, Mastodon, at IDAC Podcast, at infosec.exchange. Hit us up on LinkedIn. We're always happy to meet folks and have conversations. And don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that stuff. That's how you can help us and get the word out. So we'll go ahead and leave it there for this week. Jim, anything else?
What's a mastodon?
Oh, boy. All right. We'll talk to everyone later.
You've been listening to Identity at the Center. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at identityatthecenter.com and find us on Twitter at IDAC Podcast. See you next time on Identity at the Center.